For the first 2 years that I use AI, I was doing it completely wrong. I'd open a new chat, ask my question, get an answer, close the app, and move on. I thought I was being efficient, but I was actually giving my AI amnesia every single time, and I had no idea how much productivity I was leaving on the table. Today, I'm showing you the exact shift that changed everything, from throwaway chats to dedicated space. And you will see inside my actual AI workspace with real client example. If you didn't watch the first video in this series, I covered why 95% of AI projects fails and introduced the 4 core concepts for using AI as a co-pilot successfully. This video is diving deep into the first concept, throwaway chats against dedicated space. I'm Rene, founder of Wingrow. I've built AI automation systems for over 100 clients now, and this series is based on the workshops we run to upskill employees and companies. If you want access to the completely free workshop, the link is in the description. When I first started using ChatGPT and Claude, my workflow looked like this. I'd be working on a client projects, hit a problem, open a new chat, and say something like, how do I structure a CRM for a marketing agency? I'd get a generic answer, maybe ask one follow-up questions, copy the response, and close the app. Next day, different client, same industry, I open a new chat. What's the best way to automate lead qualification? Again, generic answer. I'd have to re-explain what the business does, their process, their constraint, etc. A week later, we're back to that first client. Open another new chat, and then ask, how should I set up their email sequence? And I'd have to explain everything about the client all over again. What they do, who their customers are, what systems they use, etc. I was essentially starting from zero every single time. And here's what's crazy. I did not even realize this was a problem. I thought this was just how you use AI. You ask a question, you get an answer, and then you move on. It took me almost 2 years before I started asking myself if there was a better way and more productive way for me to do this. The shift happened when I started using dedicated space instead of throwaway chats. A dedicated space means keeping an ongoing conversation with AI about a specific topic or project. In ChatGPT, this could be a project or a custom GPT. In Claude, this is definitely a project. The key is that all conversations about that topic stay in one place, and the AI builds context over time. AI already knows who the client is, what they do, their tech stack, their goal, our entire previous conversations, and then you ask something along the line of, based on what you know about this client sales process, how should we adjust the lead qualification to account for their enterprise customers? You get tailored, specific answers that references your previous work. The AI is not starting from zero, it's building on everything we've discussed before. This is where you capture those 40%, 60% productivity gains we talked about in the first video. Now, I'm not saying you should never use throwaway chats. There are specific times when throwaway chats makes perfect sense and times where dedicated space are essentials. You can use throwaway chats when you don't need the answer later and the context is simple. For example, things like quick fact-checking or definitions, one-off translations or grammar corrections, simple calculations, one-off summarization of an article, testing how to phrase a prompt, questions where you won't reference the answer later, and also random curiosity that won't affect your work. For example, if I want to know what's the population of Estonia, then I'd use a throwaway chat. I don't need the AI to remember this specifically, and I won't build on this information. And here's a nuance. You can use dedicated space for any substantial work. Anything that's part of an ongoing project like client projects, business planning, content creation, systems design, learning a new skill, personal development stuff, really anything you'll reference or build upon later. And the rule is quite simple. If you're working on something that matters and will continue past today, just use a dedicated space. Let me show you exactly how I use dedicated space in my business. I'm going to screen share my actual cloud projects so that you can see what this looks like in production. So as you can see, this is a client project for a real estate developer. You can see I've been having conversation here for weeks. Let me show you how this works. At the top, I have my foundational context. This tells Claude who the client is and what they do, the project scope. In this instance, we're building a full-blown ERP system. So basically a bunch of systems together that encompass the entire business. We also talk about key constraints like budget and timeline, their existing tech stack, And instead of saying, how do I build a lead management system? I can ask things like, based on what you know about this client sales process and the fact that they have enterprise customers with long sales cycle, what field should I add to the lead qualification form? Notice that when I ask a question like this, you can see how Claude response reference things we've discussed before. This is completely different from a generic answer I would get in a throwaway chat. And here's what makes dedicated space so powerful. They compound over time. Every conversation's had more context. The AI learns about how you work, how you think, what you prefer, and the 10th conversation is dramatically better than the first conversation because of all that accumulated knowledge. With throwaway chats, conversation 100 is exactly the same quality as conversation 1. You never improve because you're always starting from zero. How do you actually set this up for your business? The step 1 is actually to identify your core projects. You would want to list out the major areas where you do ongoing work, such as your client projects, so one space per client, business operations, content creation, personal development, learning new skills, etc. The step 2 is to create dedicated space for your core projects. In ChatGPT or Claude, just create a project for each major area you just identified and give it a clear name to keep a structure. And lastly, on step 3, you want to add foundational context to your new dedicated space. This is crucial. Start each space with context about what this project is about, who's involved, your key goals and constraints, how do you prefer to work, and really any relevant background that you might think of. So now you understand throwaway chats versus dedicated space. But dedicated space only works if you structure your context properly. So subscribe so you don't miss the next video where I'm showing you the 3 context framework that turns AI from a generic chatbot into a specialized thinking partner for your business. You'll get the exact template I use that you can copy for your own projects. And if you want the workshop materials and templates as we go through the series, join the free Skool community. The link is going to be in the description. See you in the next one.